So Lawrence Neal here, and welcome back to High Intensity Business, the podcast. We talk about how you can get more clients, how to retain your clients and grow your high intensity training business, and get more members for your hit business. When you download our free resources over at highintensitybusiness.com/free, you can get a PDF on how to get, 10 tips on getting more clients for your hit business. So again, you can download that over at highintensitybusiness.com/free. This is episode 403, and the topic of this is how to use paid Google ads to get more clients for your business. This is a topic that has not really been covered, I don't believe, in all of the 400 episodes we've done on the show. And so I'm really excited to get into this. I have Ilana. I should have asked you. Wexler. Thank you so much. I should have asked that before we got started, right? Thank you. Yeah. So thanks so much for pronouncing your name for me.
Ilana thought I'd help you out, Lawrence.
Thank you. Ilana is the founder and director of Teach Traffic and also Green Arrow Digital. Ilana is a former data analyst turned PPC expert, has worked at many of the global financial institutions, but switched careers many years ago when she finally gave in to her passion for PPC, IT, and entrepreneurship. She's truly passionate about working closely with her clients and helping them achieve their business goals by helping them grow their businesses online. And you live in Sydney with your husband and 3 children. Is that still all factual?
It's true. Although I should add that there's now a dog in the mix.
That is an important addition to update the bio.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Otherwise known as my 4th child.
Very good. Love it. Yes. Important. So look, thank you so much for joining me. And as I said, this is not a topic that's been covered on the podcast. And we're seeing a few business owners in our space use paid Google ads with really good success, and we're getting great results. I've not used it. I have absolutely no idea about it, really. And so I'm fascinated to learn. So can you kick us off by just describing what that is, if we can be really simplistic, and then get into kind of the tactics? Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. So advertising on Google involves, it can involve a variety of things, but for your listeners who have a certain type of business, it probably incorporates having a little text ad on Google search when somebody types in something specific to your business. So for example, let's pretend I have a personal training business in, Glasgow, let's say, and I would like to get in front of more people who are looking for a personal trainer in Glasgow, right? So I can advertise at the instant that somebody is searching for insert whatever kind of client I want, be it personal trainer Glasgow, and I have a little text ad that shows up above the organic results in Google. But here's the difference with advertising on Google compared to the alternative, which would be putting an ad in a local paper, is that you only pay when somebody clicks on your ad. So in contrast to putting an ad in the local paper where you pay a flat fee, you don't really, you pay that one-off fee and there's no guarantee or even any intel into how many people saw that ad or whatever. And we can get into that later on in this particular podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But with Google, you only pay when somebody clicks on your ad. So if nobody clicks, you pay nothing.
Okay. I love the fact that you use Glasgow as one of the examples. But one thing I failed to tell you, Ilana, is pretty much all my listeners are in America. So
okay. There you go.
Yeah. No, I should have said that. So good for obviously context for future examples. But so most of these high intensity training, personal training studios are in America, and obviously they're all over the world, but America's where most of them are, and certainly most of my listeners are. Thank you for that. So why? I guess you gave a good reason there as to why it's a better option than traditional advertising. One of the ways you described that there. Can you just talk about, I don't know, maybe the results you've seen using paid Google? If you have any fitness case studies that come to mind, that would be really interesting, or just talk about the results in general from paid Google versus other methods.
Yeah. The results honestly vary quite considerably. And it really, the success I find with Google Ads hinges on, I guess, the way you also set up your account. Like I've seen some disaster accounts and I've seen some really successful accounts, because obviously the way I help people, I can kind of have a lens into all their different accounts and what they're doing. But yeah, like if it depends, if you set it up in a very, very granular way, then that gives you the best chance of success. So going back to my example before, like if somebody has a fitness studio in, let's say, Beverly Hills, right, in Los Angeles, if you are bidding on the term personal trainer Beverly Hills and the surrounding suburbs, you're going to have a much better chance of success, obviously, provided you are actually in that location, than if you're just kind of doing a scattergun approach and just advertising, statewide or something like that. But really, if you think about could Google be good for your business, just think about the fact of how do your existing clientele search for things. 9 people out of 10 would go to Google. So really you're advertising to them at literally the moment or the instant that they are searching for your type of business. So you're sliding your business card under the nose of someone at the instant that they are searching for it. Mm-hmm. So it really is, I believe, an amazing advertising opportunity because of the huge amount of intent there for people. You know that they're searching for a personal trainer in Beverly Hills. They've literally just typed it into Google, and you are advertising to them at that moment. And once again, if they don't click on your ad, you don't pay. So success is obviously when you can get in front of the right person at that instant, show them the right ad. That is, we are a personal trainer in Beverly Hills. And when they do click on your ad, you send them to a page on your website which has all the information that they would possibly be looking for, with a really simple way for them to get in touch with you. You just don't make it complicated for people. Have a phone number, have a form, and you just got to make it really, really easy for people.
You said some really key things there. Excuse me. You talked about the right person. Now, the right person, I mean, I'm speaking generally here, but the right person for most of us in our space is a busy professional female who is over 40, maybe between, say, 40 and 50, who has some kids, no time, who is probably quite a high earner, so sort of 6-figure income. It seems to be the demographic, psychographic, who really resonates with a personal training service like we provide. And this is sort of seems quite common across, all sorts of sort of geographical areas and across all of our businesses, really. And so let's just use that as an example. I mean, obviously I could get more detailed about the avatar than that, but if I just keep it there to begin with, you have to know that first, right? And when you're coming to create these ads, because you need to know the type of copy and the journey that's going to resonate with that person. Is that part of your process? I'm sorry if I'm jumping ahead here, but I'm just trying to understand how you, I guess the how now is kind of where we're getting to with this stuff.
Yeah. So obviously it's good to have a customer avatar in mind, excuse me, in terms of who you're having a potential conversation with. Right. I like to think of success advertising online, be it on Google, be it on Facebook, TikTok, any advertising platform, really hinges on 3 core elements. The first is your targeting. Okay. Are you getting in front of the right person? And how you get in front of the right person depends on, as you said, your customer avatar. So if you're advertising on Facebook, obviously you can filter for such kind of demographic people, or you're targeting, be it the keywords, what people have typed into Google, where you might not necessarily add those customer avatar filters. You can if you want to, or you may just want to kind of go for what they've typed into Google as the targeting, as enough of that targeting as the pre-qualifier. So that's the first thing that hinges on your success. The second is your offer, what it is you're offering people, be it, it can be a one-time offer, or you don't even have to run an offer, but what is the proposition you are giving people, be it the 45-minute training or whatever it is. And the third is that you're creative. So, how you write your ad to get them to click. And when they get there, does your website convince them that, yes, this is the person who is going to be helping me and I want to get in touch with them and have a conversation with them. Okay. So each of these 3 elements really need to be in harmony with each other. And honestly, if even one of those elements falls apart, the whole thing falls apart. So you can bid on exactly the right keywords and get in front of exactly the right target customer. But if your offer isn't right for that person, then no amount of good traffic is going to make that work. Same with the flip side. You can have the best offer, but you put it in front of the wrong person and it also doesn't work. So the way I like to think with Google is to really, really think, get into the mind of your target customer, so that 40-something-year-old male or female who's time poor and a professional, when are they searching for, what time of day are they searching for a personal trainer? It's usually, maybe they've woken up feeling not great, so it's before work. It's not really during work. It's usually after work when they've got home and they're exhausted and they don't have, So
how do we know that? How do we know timing? How do you know that stuff?
I'm just guessing.
Oh,
I've been a busy professional, right? Like I know I've been that customer avatar. Okay. I know that they don't have time between 9 and 5 to be searching for this. So possibly you can restrict your ads to just only advertise outside of business hours and be really strategic in that way, right? And bid on certain keywords, right, that would qualify, and you really got to get in the mind of your target customer, and bid on those kinds of keywords in the locations that you service, and then you've got a really, really hyper targeted campaign that you're running. And once again, dangling the right offer in front of them with the right creative, and then you're away.
Yeah, I guess it does. No, absolutely. It makes a lot of sense. I don't know if we're going to have a chance to cover all those key elements you talked about, because I can see how you haven't got them all right. It might not work. It doesn't matter if you've got one or two of them right. It might not achieve the desired result. But let's just, I guess, start from the top. How do we do this? How do we go about actually setting this up? What's the first step?
The first step, so you're talking a Google search campaign?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. The first step is to really, I think, step back actually and think about, as I said, who your target customer is and what type of services you would like to be offering. So if you're a high intensity personal training studio, then think about the target customer. What would they be typing into Google? So they would be typing in personal trainer, probably with a suburb, personal trainer near me, and that would be a very mobile campaign. High intensity studio near me, high intensity studio Beverly Hills, just continuing with the Beverly Hills example, and surrounding areas, or just high intensity studio or timetable or companies, etc. So you've really got to do a bit of a brainstorm of possible queries that your ideal customer would be searching for.
Is there a way of seeing what people search for? Like, Google has that intelligence where it can bring up like potentials. Yeah, and that's within these. Yeah, go ahead.
So there are excuse me, a number of free and paid tools that you can use. Of course, Google trying to make it easy for you. So they tell you this information because they want you to run ads on Google. So there is a free tool inside the Google ad platform called the Keyword Planner. And you can put in a couple of starter keywords, and then they will give you usually about 700 or 800 keywords. Definitely not suggesting you copy all those keywords. Just have a really quick scan through to think, yep, these are the ones I want to incorporate potentially. There are also other free tools that you can use. There's a whole bunch of them, and we also use a bunch of paid tools as well. You can also reverse engineer what your competitors are doing. I mean, this is one of the real advantages and disadvantages with advertising online is you can pretty much reverse engineer what your competitors are doing. So if one of your competitors is, advertising on Google, you can put in their competitor URL into these paid tools, and it will tell you what keywords they are bidding on, which is nice intel. They're not perfect. It's not going to get every single keyword, but it will give you a flavor of the types of keywords that they're bidding on. And often even just going to Google itself and the auto suggest and the suggestions that come up by Google give you ideas as well. But I've worked so much in the Google local advertising space. I actually used to specialize in Google Ads for dentists. Actually, that was like a subspecialty I did for a number of years. And honestly, personal training is exactly the same way. The strategy is exactly the same. It's very suburb focused. It's near me focused with the mobile campaign. And it's also based on the services that you would do. So the high intensity, maybe, I can't think of another, maybe weightlifting, strength building.
Strength training would be,
Strength training, exactly. Those types of, I guess, subspecialties under the umbrella of personal training you can also bid on. So often what I find is you have to actually think quite laterally in terms of, rather than just going, I wouldn't bid on just personal trainer near me. Maybe that's just one part of your overall strategy, but thinking laterally, as I said, with the sub niches within personal training can often yield you really good results because people aren't thinking, advertisers don't think like that. And often those keywords are more successful and convert better because they're less competitive. One thing I do want to mention for your listeners is how much you pay to Google for a click depends on how competitive a keyword is, because the Google ad platform is an auction. Okay. So how much you pay depends on how many other people are also bidding on that same keyword. So as I said, it's an auction system. So for example, your listeners are probably grateful they're not a plumber, because plumbing keywords are very, very expensive because they all advertise on Google, because that's how people find their plumbers. And a click is about $50 for a click.
Wow.
Not even a lead, right? So you might be wondering, how much do I pay? It depends on the keyword that you're bidding on, which is why I often suggest for people to think really laterally, because you want to kind of go for keywords that not everyone is bidding on. I also do want to mention one more thing about this.
Please keep going.
Okay, it's not a traditional auction system like it would be for buying a house or any kind of traditional auction system where the person who is willing to pay the highest wins the auction. Google are actually really clever in that they have a reward system for being a good advertiser, essentially. So if you kind of step back for a second, and what Google want is they want people to keep using their platform as their end user, okay? So they want people to have a good experience on Google. So when somebody types in high intensity training Beverly Hills, they don't want to see an ad for a dentist. Users don't want to see that because it's not relevant to them. So whilst if I'm a dentist, I can advertise for that type of keyword, it doesn't really make sense, right? But Google are going to penalize me for that because it's a bad user experience for their end user, and they're going to penalize me by charging me a really high cost per click. All right. So it's an auction system with a difference where if people have a good experience by clicking on your ads, be it a lot of people do click on your ads. When they do click, they don't hit that back button straight away and all that kind of stuff. They reward you with a lower cost per click. And this is with a metric. What's that? Yeah, right. So this is with a metric called quality score. So your account and your keywords have a quality score. And so, yeah, contrary to what you might think, that the person in the number one ad spot is bidding the highest, not necessarily true. They might have just a really good, tightly structured, well-performing account that they don't actually have to bid very high to outbid others because they've been a good
high conversion. Basically, they're getting higher conversion, which is then leading to a higher quality score and a lower cost per click.
Correct. That's exactly right. And that is why structuring your account is actually really, really important, because that leads to a good click-through rate. So people clicking on your ads and converting, and then Google reward you for that. So in actual fact, like we, in my agency work, even though I don't do much agency work anymore, we have renovated an ad account before, as in rebuilt campaigns completely with the right structure, and have managed to dramatically reduce the cost per click purely because of this quality score metric and getting good click-through rates and conversion rates. I mean, I teach this inside Teach Traffic, how to structure these things the right way to give you the best possible chance for success.
So I didn't actually mention that URL, I don't think, but teachtraffic.com is obviously your main thing, right? I just want to mention that the midpoint of this episode rather than just at the end, in case people have to pause or whatever and they're interested. Sorry, I know you've said this a couple of times. Structuring your account, what does that mean? How do we do that? What does it mean to have a well-structured account?
Good question. Essentially, it is success with advertising online is all about ad relevance, putting the right ad in front of the right person. All right. So structuring your account is forcing really good ad relevance. So, for example, if somebody types into Google personal trainer studio Beverly Hills, the ad that they see talks directly to the fact that they're looking for a personal trainer in Beverly Hills. It matches it. Versus if somebody types in strength, weight training, and I don't know, another I'm trying to think of another suburb in LA.
It's alley. I get it. I get it a lot.
It's another suburb in
Pasadena. Is that LA?
Pasadena. Thank you. I was like drawing a blank.
I might be wrong about that. I don't know. Maybe I'm right.
I think, well, I mean, it's far, whatever, but that's actually a good example. Strength training Pasadena, you want them to see an ad that talks about strength training in Pasadena. Okay. So you need to actually structure your account in such a way that forces Google to show the right ad for the right query for what they've typed in. It's hard. It's a little hard to explain.
Is the problem that I hear you. Is the problem that some people's accounts are messy and they've got all these different campaigns or whatever you call it, where the keywords will connect them to an offer, but it's the wrong offer or it's not hitting it right on the nose. It just gets messy. Yeah,
everyone falls for the same traps basically, and I don't blame them because actually Google doesn't make it obvious and doesn't make it clear for people. And honestly, if I was starting out and I'd never done it before, I too would fall into these traps. But the common mistake that people make, and if your listeners are listening to this and they've dabbled with Google, you might relate to this. The common mistake that people make is they create one campaign. Within their one campaign, they will have one ad group, and inside that ad group, they will have 300 keywords, all related to their business, but all somewhat unrelated to each other. So with the personal training example, they'll have one campaign, one ad group, and then inside that ad group, they'll have keywords for personal trainer near me, high intensity training, strength building, mum and bubs training sessions for mums with kids.
I see. So there's so many keywords that's no longer relevant to the offer because the offer cannot speak to all of them. Is that where we're going?
Exactly. So whilst all those keywords might be relevant for all the different services that they offer in their business, right? You want to match the keyword with the right offer, right? So if a mum and bub is searching for a keyword, you don't want them to see strength building, men's group or something. I'm making it up, right? So you need to build your account in such a way that forces Google to show the right ad for the right keyword. So if we kind of go back a step, the structure of your Google ad account is, think of it like an upside down tree, okay, where you've got a campaign. Off your campaign, you have ad groups, and then attached to your ad groups are the ads. So ad groups are actually called ad groups for a reason, because that's where the ad is attached to that group of keywords. All right. So the extreme example is you would have one keyword per ad group. So you would have one keyword for mum and bub strength training, and the ad attached to it talks about mum and bub training groups. Another ad group about weight training, and then your ad attached to that ad group talks about different weight training and et cetera, et cetera. And then another ad group talking about your one-on-one personal training, et cetera. So that's kind of what I mean about structure, and that is what most people get wrong. And then, so if your ad then doesn't match your keyword, people don't click on your ad because it's not relevant to them. And then of the people that do click, they're not really quite right. And then you're wasting all this money. And then the advertiser throws their hands in the air and go, Google Ads doesn't work. And it's just really, really expensive because they get a bad quality score, and the whole thing falls apart.
I can see how this can happen. Maybe people get impatient because they're not getting results, so they create more ad groups and more offers, and before you know it, it's all over the place.
It's like untangling spaghetti, honestly.
Yeah, because I can see how this can get. A lot of people can fail at this because how overwhelming it can get. Because if you've got to get that whole chain of events right, then you've got to have exactly the right copy speaking to the right person with the right offer and the right landing page and the right next step. That all has to be congruent. And if you've got 50 versions of that, that's I mean, that's hard for a big company to manage, let alone a small business, right? So is the lesson here to keep it really, really simple in the beginning, and maybe just tweak one variable here and there, but keep it really, yeah.
The lesson is to keep it simple. It does not have to be complicated.
Yeah.
And often I like to say to people is just to start really small, right? Think about perhaps one type of service you're trying to grow, and start there and try and get that profitable. Try and get more leads in than kind of more money in than what you're paying for those ads, and then grow and scale from there. You might only want to run like a mobile campaign, right? For people who are within a 5-mile area radius of your studio, okay? Mobile only, between the hours of maybe 5 and 9 p.m. and start with that and see what results you get. See if you can start to generate some inquiries and some calls, or even just people filling in the contact form on your website for personal trainer near me, etc. Or you could, sorry.
No, it's okay. I was wondering, Alana, this is going to be a little bit off the beaten path, but do you think we could do like a real experiment? Not real experiment as in we don't do the actual campaign right now, but what I mean is, would you be able to walk through an example start to finish? So for example, let's just say the offer, and I can help you because I know well, my business and my audience's specific service, and we can keep it quite simple. Do you see where I'm going with this? So it's like, for instance, we could just, so if I say, what's the starting point? So let's say we're creating a campaign on Google Ads. What's the first step? What would we first need to do?
First step is seeing what the offer is. Like when in the perfect world that we get in front of the right person and they click on the ad, what's the landing page? Where are we sending
That's the first thing. Okay. So I'm just going to help you with this part, right? So let's say that landing page it's offering a free workout. So it would be copy along the lines of 30 minutes, 2 times per week, efficient strength training, book your introductory free workout. That's the kind of message that seems to resonate with the target market, which I went through earlier. So that would be the offer. Let's say that. And obviously that's just the copy, but that the landing page would have that, and it would have a clear button to schedule a free workout. Is that the kind of thing? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So what type of workout is it? You did mention it.
So so personalized strength training.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's and obviously it's at a location, like an address, a studio, as opposed to somebody coming to their home.
Exactly. Yeah. So so it'd be a personal training studio. We can use the Beverly Hills example if you want. You seem to like that area, right?
The suburb, I know, right? Big fan of that show back in the 80s or something?
Oh, is it?
90210?
Oh, yeah. I'm familiar.
I'm showing my age now.
No, it's fine. Do you know, it made me laugh actually when you mentioned Beverly Hills, because I thought personal training Beverly Hills must cost a lot of money to click,
I
I
know.
suspect.
You know what?
More than
The
$50.
funny thing is that it's all about thinking creatively. So actually, what a client of mine, which I've had for a long time, they're a mortgage broker in Beverly Hills. I mean, talk
Oh,
about competitive, right? Like
wow, yeah.
that it right. But we think of creative ways to compete in that market against some serious deep pockets in that industry. Anyway, we digress.
Sorry,
Okay,
my fault.
that's okay. So they're at an address in Beverly Hills for strength training studio. Yeah.
Personalized strength training or personal strength training. Yeah.
Okay. So very simple is probably, I would say, a two-pronged approach to this inside your Google ad account, where you will have one campaign with very tight location targeting. So you can apply radius location targeting, right? So you actually put in your address of your studio and you can say, I only want to advertise in even a 3-mile radius, or you could do it whatever radius you want.
Can you say can you say like 10-minute drive time, or is it all miles radius?
It's all
distance?
miles, but
Yeah.
it
you
will
could
show
figure
you
that
in
out.
the map. You can figure that out.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
So
those
let's say
listening, 10-minute drive time, whatever that is in terms of miles, maybe 5 or 10 miles, something like that, maybe less.
maybe with LA traffic, maybe it's not
Yeah,
very
it just shows how ignorant I am. Maybe it's less than that.
depends on the time of day, right?
Yeah.
Let's just go with a 5-mile radius, just for example. So you create your campaign, you assign the location targeting for a 5-mile radius, and then you would type in as the keyword that you are targeting. You have to think, if somebody was to land on this landing page, who would be the ideal person? What have they just typed into Google? So that would be personalized strength trainer, right? Got to think of like what they're searching for rather than what you are, right?
Yeah, I doubt they would say personalized, right? They're going to say, like you were alluding to at the start of this. Sorry, I keep interrupting you. They're going to search like personal training, personal trainer, strength training, and then my brain isn't working at 9:15 p.m. in the evening, so it's probably like lots more, like you say, lateral keywords that we can, the listeners can figure out. I'm sure,
Something else worth mentioning, which I
Yes.
haven't touched on yet, but for fear of overwhelming your listeners, apologies in advance. Google are well aware that it's inconceivable to think of every possible query that people type into Google. Okay. So they have this concept of keyword match types, right? Where that will open the door to variations of a keyword you're bidding on. So for example,
that's handy.
Strength trainer, okay, which would be, somebody who is a trainer in helping people build strength. If you set the match type for that keyword to be, let's say, exact match, Google will only show your ad for exactly that term. Now, if you're like, well, but like, what if people type in trainer to build strength, right, which is a variation on that? You don't need to think of every possible variation. You can change your match type to be what's called phrase match, such that these variations will appear, your ad will appear for these variations. Okay, so that trainer and strength will be somewhere in the search term that somebody's typed in, but can kind of be in any particular order. So don't think, oh my God, how am I going to think of every possible variation? You actually don't have to. You just kind of need to think of the main points of the query that need to be there. And then you can say, hey, Google, kind of go away and find me these types of people. Once again, within this location, okay? And for those types of keywords. I would, if we're going to be really, really hyper targeted, I would actually probably only do a mobile campaign just in the beginning, because it kind of feels like a mobile type scenario.
In terms of the demographic, you think the age?
Just in terms of and the moment that people are in, they're on the go, and it's not really something that, I mean, maybe they would do it on their tablet on the couch at night or something. Maybe I wouldn't do that. Anyway, start with all devices and then you can have a look at the data and see how it performs. Okay.
Quick question: the data. Yep. Sorry, I know you're in flow here. When it comes to PPC or people, I mean, maybe it depends on the product and service demographic, like you were alluding to there. But isn't most search happening now on mobile in general?
You know what? It's interesting you asked that, and I normally would say yes, but there are definitely industries where it's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, there has been a massive trend to pretty much, 80-20, 80% on mobile, 20% on desktop. But there are definitely some industries where it's not. For example, I was helping somebody the other day inside Teach Traffic whose business is kind of like overhead projectors, actually, like e-commerce. Niche, right? And that's pretty much desktop because they're schools, like, those smart whiteboards and stuff like that. That's not really mobile. There was another one. What was it? For the life of me, can't remember. Yeah, I get access to lots of weird and wonderful niches, or for your American listeners, I should say niches. It just still feels weird to say. I don't know about you, but I can't get used to it.
Overall.
Yeah. Anyway, back to our example. So we have one campaign with that very tight location targeting, okay, with exactly, if you imagine a scenario of when somebody does click on the ad and they add on that landing page, you want it to be congruent. You want it to go, yeah, I've landed in the right place. So strength trainer, weight trainer, personal trainer for weights, for strength building, all those kinds of variations. And then you send them to that page. But also, sorry, I want to add something. Your ad will also mention that offer. So come to our studio in Beverly Hills, free 30-minute, whatever was your offer. Make sure you mention that offer in your ad copy so that there's also no surprise when they get there. So you're kind of pre-qualifying them of like when they get there, that matches the ad that they've seen.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so if it's like a free introductory workout, right? So a lot of our space, a lot of owners will use that, or they might have like a consultation. Maybe it's a paid, but maybe it's a initial consultation offer of some kind. I guess we won't get too much into the nitty gritty because it's difficult to do on a podcast, but you wouldn't want too much copyright. So you want, because you don't just probably want.
You've limited anyway in your text. You're limited in your text ad anyway.
How many characters do you get normally?
So your minimum, you need 3 headlines, each of 30 characters, and you have 2 descriptions, each of 90 characters.
Okay, so that's 3 different ads. Is that effectively?
No. That's all in the one ad.
So 3 headlines in one ad.
3 headlines. They're added together, so it's not really like they're not above each other.
Okay.
They're just called headlines, but it's 3 headlines, each of 30 characters, and 2 descriptions, each of 90 characters. Sorry, I'm going to confuse your listeners even more. There are also other ways you can add on additional real estate to your ad, and definitely I'm going to recommend your listeners to connect their Google business profile to their Google ad account so that they will have an ad that comes up in Google Maps. And that would be really, really good for your listeners, because I would imagine people just go to Google Maps. Okay. So you need to connect what previously was known as Google My Business, which I believe is called Google Business Profile now. They're always changing things, something like that. Mm-hmm. You connect it to your ad account. And then when somebody types in personal trainer or strength trainer in that area, you will have an ad that shows up in the maps.
Excellent. Okay. Is that everything on the process, or have we missed something there? What's the next step?
That's pretty much it. I would also mention, sorry to confuse your listeners.
Okay. No, go for it. This is great. Yeah.
There are additional things you can add in conjunction to your text ad. So in addition to those 3 headlines and 2 descriptions, you can also enable what are called ad extensions or ad assets, which will, the maps being one of them, the location extension. You can also add in the call extension. So they don't even go to your website. They just click on that call button if they like what they see. There's also the different you can add in all these additional components which do not cost any extra at all. So you can actually grab a lot more Google ad real estate for no extra cost. Google love you doing this because they get better click-through rate.
Yeah.
And in actual fact, I'm sure if you and I were to do a Google search on our phone right now for personal trainer or strength trainer near me, the first ad that would come up, if these advertisers know what they're doing, which I'm sure they do, you can actually, if you enable all these ad extensions, you could pretty much dominate the entire screen of somebody's phone. And like I've done this in the dental space a lot, where and it's just one advertiser, just that whole screen, because they've taken up the entire Google search.
And that doesn't put off the user. It feels quite natural and organic.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't want to dominate the entire screen, right? Like one advertiser, as long as it's relevant and it's answering what, like at the end of the day, like people, I would say, don't really want to do research. They just want to find the person that can help them.
Yeah.
And that is your job as the advertiser to say, I am the person that can help you. I've got a great offer. I'm conveniently located near where you are. We have great testimonials, etc. I mean, no brainer, right?
Yeah, I love it. Love it. So a couple extra things before we wrap up. I know that some people listening is thinking, that's all well and good, Ilana. I'm not going to do it. Who, not how? Who do I, can I work with you? Is there anyone you recommend? What would you say to someone who doesn't want to do it themselves and wants to outsource this kind of thing?
Yeah, you could theoretically hire someone to help you. I mean, I do still have my agency, although I don't do a lot of agency work. So feel free to get in touch. So you could hire somebody, or you could hire an agency. The problem with an agency is anyone who's half decent, their agency fees really kind of eat into,
right,
the profits that you're generating. The truth is, it's actually not that complicated to set up, provided you do it correctly kind of the first time. So I'm an advocate for people learning how to do this, obviously. I've got a course inside Teach Traffic, which teaches people, it's called Google Ads for Local Business, which teaches this exact strategy. I mean, I give away the farm. Like I'm not trying to grow an agency, so I don't hold anything back. And it really walks you through step by step. And often it's just the setup part, which is hard for people. And sometimes we set up accounts for people and then hand the account over to them for them to run the ads themselves. And then at least all the money they're spending is just on the ads rather than ads plus agency, which after a while can kind of really eat into their profits,
Yeah, what I've heard is it's probably quite important for the business owner or the business to keep this in-house and to learn this skill. And that goes for a lot of marketing. And because what I've heard is a lot of agencies just don't necessarily, they're not as, I guess, interested in really optimizing the outcome for you over the long term. Maybe I'm generalizing, but I'm just hearing that usually if the business owner or the team gets really good at this type of marketing, that they're just going to yield much better results, because I guess also they understand their business better. So maybe utilizing the training you talked about in Teach Traffic, they can really teach themselves that skill set.
I may be biased. I actually think it is a really, really important skill to know because it provides really interesting intel into also your target customers, right? This is not going anywhere. So I think a number of years ago, when people were still finding their feet with it, yeah, by all means, hire an agency and let's just test it and see if it works. It no doubt works. I mean, it's not going anywhere. So I do personally think it's an important skill to have in-house. I mean, I've had an agency for 10 years. Like I've been doing agency work, like dog years, right? Forever. And I know when an account has been running for a while, it kind of enters maintenance mode where, excuse me, there's not a whole lot you'll be adjusting on a day-to-day basis. It just hums along really, really nicely. Once it's been built and fine-tuned really nicely, it's kind of like an icebreaker just kind of cutting through ice. It's really, really consistent. So I would argue you actually don't need an agency long term. But on the flip side as well, having these skills in-house, I can almost guarantee you it will give you other ideas of different campaigns you want to run. So it's funny, like, how can I explain it? So when you have a look through the reports of what Google give you, it tells you what people actually search for. So when you have and that's like a treasure trove of information of your target customers, right? If you're finding a lot of people are searching for, let's say, mum and bub classes, you don't actually have a page talking specifically about that, but that makes you think, hang on a minute, like maybe I should, like this is where the demand is. Maybe I should offer this, or a different type of strength training, etc. So it will give you a level of intel of what the market is looking for, that possibly you think, maybe I got to provide this because this is what people are searching for and nobody else is. But I've got this intel that's what they're searching for. They can't seem to find it because, well, I don't offer it and nobody else does. And maybe I should, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I can almost guarantee you it will lead to you making different offers and possibly offering different services in your market. And it's also kind of like turning a tap on and off, right? Like I've had a client in the legal space, right, where they're like, okay, Ilana, we need more leads. We turn the campaigns on. They're like, all right, we're at capacity. Let's turn the campaigns off. And like literally, it's like turning a tap on and
Amazing.
off. I mean, it's like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But yes, I am an advocate for running it in-house and having an in-house person to do so, because it is certainly not rocket science once you learn how to do it the right way. And they're really, really valuable skills to have. And if you decide, actually, this is working really well, we're going to open up in another location, you can easily just copy those campaigns to change the location targeting for your new location. Actually, that's what my legal client did. They were in a certain area. They're like, we want to try an office in this completely other part of the city. Before they even set up the office, right? We launched the campaigns, tested it. Yep, got lead. Okay. And then they grew that office just by testing that first.
Amazing. Fascinating. Sounds so simple. I know there's obviously more to it, and I'm sure there's trial and error, right, in terms of trying to fine-tune these campaigns and making them work. Just before we wrap up here, have you got any more tips specifically for fitness business owners, pitfalls you spot, ways to avoid those pitfalls? Anything that comes to mind for those who are listening to this who's like, yeah, I want to get started, but want to kind of mitigate some of those mistakes?
Okay. Mistakes that people make is, once again, we touched on structure. I'm not going to go into that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't add negative keywords into their account. So you can actually say to Google, I want to make sure my ad does not show for this types of, for example, free personal trainer. So you would add free as a negative keyword. Worst, dodgy. We've got a whole list of negative keywords that we add by default into your account. What's another tip I would have? I'm a big fan of a retargeting campaign. So people who come to your website but then don't contact you because, you know, the timing wasn't right or they weren't quite ready to commit. And then you can have ads that kind of follow them around, for lack of a better way of saying it. They're generally very good.
And they're free Google as well, the retargeting? That's still free.
They are through Google. Yeah. You can also, I'm a big fan of retargeting on multiple platforms. So, for example, you use Google search traffic to get the right people to your website. So I would, be a personal trainer, Beverly Hills, get the right person. Let's say they don't contact me. Then I can follow them on Google and on Facebook. At least I know that the people I'm advertising on Facebook, I know are the right kinds of people because I use the right Google search to get them there. But then I have a holistic retargeting approach.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay. Very good. All right. Ilana, this has been so good. I'm obviously aware that we're on the hour here and I don't want to run over because I know you've probably got kids to get to school and things like that.
They're long gone to school.
Oh, are they? Okay, cool. But look, thank you so much. This has been just really full of great insights and just actionable stuff that, myself and my listeners can do straight away. We intend to start doing this probably this year at some point. I mean, it's funny, like we literally just, and all my listeners will know this, we just focused on bark.com for new clients for our personal training studio. I don't know if you've ever heard of that service. But it's just people that are obviously posting their interest in personal training. We've not even gone anywhere near paid Google, social media, even free. We're doing any free social media either. And we're keeping it very focused. We're deliberately, because our resources are very finite. So we're just focused on bark.com and referrals. So we're like, okay, deliver great service, proactively ask for referrals, get leads through bark.com. That's it. But we're going to be testing other things in the near future. So anyway, enough about me. Your resources. So if people want to find out more about you and your services, teachtraffic.com is how they can find out all about that. So check that out. If you want to obviously learn how to do this, and a better hand holding, I assume, is in your community to help people with that.
Absolutely.
Excellent. And for everyone listening, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Subscribe on YouTube if you want to see the video and see Alana's wonderful t-shirt. And if you want to get more members for your hit business, download our free resources over at highintensitybusiness.com/free, which includes a PDF on 10 tips to get more clients. Again, highintensitybusiness.com/free. And to find the blog post for this episode, please go to highintensitybusiness.com, search episode 403. And until next time, thank you very much for listening.